in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? Really like that. You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Tuesday evening. As usual, we have a loaded show for you guys tonight, particularly in the local hour. Got a lot of intel, a lot of observations to bring you around Georgia football and Georgia spring football. But as we normally do and as we always do, we're going to open it up with our national topics here on our national hour, NBR, Nothing But Rants. We got a great one for you. I want to open it up with this, man. I don't often like being right. I had a hard time even writing that one. I actually enjoy being right, as most of us do, but I don't necessarily love being right with regards to like predicting further tectonic plates running into each other, or as we call them around here, Titanic plates, okay? I don't love being right about predicting, massive change and massive movements and massive differences in our game around college football, though it happens, okay? It happens every once in a while on this network. Like last week when I come on the channel and I say, hey, man, why is Florida State the only one being loud and obnoxious about how the ACC just got deemed a lesser than product? Why are they the only good football program, meaningful, national kind of powerhouse program? Why are they the only one out here bitching, moaning, complaining, pitching a fit, trying to be loud and obnoxious about getting out of their contract? Why are they the only one out here seeking out private equity money? And then I told you, hey, they're probably not the only one, right? Maybe they're just the only loud one. Maybe they're the only child that's always screaming and bickering and moaning. The other one still has needs, right? The other one is still maybe working behind the scenes to do some, rambunctious behavior. And that's exactly what we saw today as Clemson is in the middle of suing the ACC. We got our boy Dabo Swinney sprinting down that hill, okay, getting ready to get out of this ACC contract. And what is this lawsuit's grounds? Okay, what is the Clemson's lawsuit's, fundamental grounds? What are they out here suing the ACC for? How are they going to get out of this contract that they willingly and knowingly not only signed but re-signed under the same exact, stipulations all the way through 2036? What is their grounds for getting out of this lawsuit or getting out of this TV contract? Well, in brief synopsis, it's basically that, to paraphrase what I'm about to read you, the ACC's contract was kind of hard to read, and it's kind of impossible to uphold. It would be basically what Clemson has said in this lawsuit, boys, is that they basically asked for $100 million kajillion babillion dollars like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, and you can't really uphold them to it because it's just an astronomical amount of money, and the wording on the contract was really hard. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Here's the quotes from this actual article. In a filing in the Court of Common Pleas in Pickens County, South Carolina, Clemson calls into question both the ACC's grant of rights and exit fees, calling the withdrawal penalty, quote, unconscionable and, quote, unenforceable. They continued. It also called ACC's views of the league's grant of rights media would allow the league to own Clemson's media rights after it left the league, a, quote, nonsensical reading. That's the part where I'm telling you they just had a hard time reading this. Nonsensical reading, wrong, and inconsistent with the planned language of that agreement. Basically, boys, this lawsuit boils down to the fact that Clemson is suing the ACC under this clause that stipulates the ACC owns their television product even after they cease to be a member of the league. They continue on. And the only problem with Clemson in this lawsuit, I find, if you continue to read, is that the ACC is not really going to go quietly. They're not going to go quietly at all with regards to the exit of this, allowance, right? Allowing these guys out of this contract. This comes straight from the president of the ACC today. Quote, Clemson, along with all ACC members, voluntarily signed and re-signed the 2013 and 2016 grant of rights, which is binding through 2036. In addition, Clemson agreed to the process and procedures for withdrawal. The conference's legal counsel will vigorously enforce the agreement and bylaws in the best interest of the ACC's current and incoming members. There's a whole lot more in this article, and they swear it's all about money, right? They swear Clemson and FSU in these lawsuits and in the jargon and in what they fed to the media, they swear it's about the net delta every single year and the difference between the money that the SEC and the Big Ten get and how much money they get. And in this lawsuit, they actually put a number to it. They say it's about $30 million a year that is in difference, right? That, we lose every single year, but the buyout on some of this stuff is like north of $800 million, boys. So
wow.
I don't know. The math doesn't math for me. Like, what you tell me it's about money, you tell me it's about this loss of $30 million, yet you're going into court with risk of losing $870 million worth of lawsuits because you knowingly signed a contract that's the buyout to leaving this television contract. So to me, all this posturing isn't about money. All this posturing is about positioning. It's about power. It's about being in the getting out of the lesser thans and getting into the accepted group that you fear will ultimately leave you for a Super League anyways, right? And it continues in this article to talk about how we talked about last week. Why is Florida State the only one? They weren't. They were the only ones that were out here loud and on Broad Street about it. This was a very interesting little portion of this article from Pete Thamel today. It says, quote, "The arrival of Clemson's lawsuit came more subtly than Florida State's." You think. Because of Florida's sunshine laws and the way FSU's animated officials forecast their lawsuit and attempt to depart as an inevitability. But Clemson has been working just as diligently about the possibility of finding a future home since Oklahoma and Texas decided to leave the Big 12 for the SEC in 2021. So Clemson's been laboring behind kind of closed doors to get this done, guys, since 2021. A lot of movement. Are y'all with me where I don't necessarily think this is as much about money because, let's be honest, they're putting themselves at risk to basically having to eat like Florida State. That's the whole reason Florida State went in and sought after the money from JP Morgan is so they're not, cash. They can be cash liquid during some of these lawsuits. This is about posturing more so than it is about annual revenue, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think if the ACC loses Clemson and Florida State, I mean, what are you at that point? I mean, you're already seen as a lesser than by everybody in your peers, even with Clemson and FSU in the mix, and you lose both of those, you're left with nothing. I mean, there is no really known commodity amongst that conference and really nothing inside of that from a football perspective that people would want to invest in or continue to continue to, I don't know the word for it, but continue to support, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of what we talked about back in when the committee made the first decision to not let Florida State in. Like, that kind of damned the ACC because prior to that, there had been rumblings about this when conference realignment happened, but it wasn't anything this serious. So now that you see it going on, it's kind of obvious that that's what went down.
Some other notes in here. Guess who's next, if you had to guess?
Probably Miami.
Wrong. Any other guesses?
Really? Not Miami?
Yep.
NC State.
Nope. Close.
North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Yeah, I was going to go
the focus in the ACC
next.
will shift next to North Carolina, which is widely believed to be the most coveted of the ACC's current schools because of its brand, location, and state's robust population. I think Miami might get – someone's getting screwed in Florida, all right? Because the Big Ten's not going to take one of these teams, right?
I don't think so.
But then again, they don't really give a shit about geographical location and proximity.
Nope.
We found that out with Cal and USC and Washington and Oregon coming into that joint. So they don't really care about proximity. It seems to be just about brands and television rights. So for that purposes, maybe the state of Florida does have some type of tie to Big Ten or some appeal, I should say, to the Big Ten because that's a state that they haven't gotten linear television rights in. I know we're moving into more of a streaming world. I understand that. But linear television, until you stop turning to Channel 46, 206, or – 140 on DirecTV and Dish, until you stop turning into them jokers on Saturday to watch the premier game and the bars stop doing it, it still matters, right? So the state lines, like some of the chat says, maybe some of these Florida schools get picked up by the Big Ten.
I mean, it's hard to imagine a world where they wouldn't get picked up in. I mean, I find it hard to believe that one of FSU or Miami just kind of gets left behind in this world. I mean, I know Miami maybe necessarily isn't one of these national powerhouses like they used to be, but it's still a brand of Miami. I mean, you talk about the Miami Hurricanes in college football, and everybody still knows, and they have some type of aspect of the game that they attribute to the Hurricanes still.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to take who. I think that I don't think anyone in Florida is getting left out. Like I don't think Miami's going to just be left in the dust. So I do think someone's going to get screwed. But obviously geography doesn't matter anymore. We've seen that with the Big Ten. We're seeing it more and more as the SEC as they expand westward. So
none of this. I mean, we talked about last night the House versus NCAA lawsuit, right? That settles in 10 months. You would imagine these lawsuits aren't settled prior to that, right? So we might get some type of reshaping of the way college athletics feel anyways. We might have our own select group of an elite schools that can, like we said last night, be willing to pay out the buyout on some of these lawsuits that they're going to lose. These antitrust lawsuits, they're going to cost some of these schools, some of these member schools, 7 figures. So if we eliminate, some of these other ACC schools that might not be able to do this, some of these Big 12 schools that might not be able to do this, and we just dwindle down to a group of 68 programs that are financially able to move into this revenue sharing model that we're ultimately moving towards, then this is kind of a moot point in terms of conference realignment.
I think it's worth noting too, since we're talking about the ACC. I know that in the article yesterday that we talked about, it mentioned how March Madness, which is something that which is a hot topic now, but it's not something that we're necessarily talking about in this grand scheme of things. Of like their rules are going to have to change because of everything else that's happening in college football, with conference realignment, everything else, and of course programs that may not be able to support themselves financially. I mean, that's also something that's going to be impacted. It's not just football in this tiny scope.
And I mean, basketball's got like 180 Division I like caliber, programs. The weird thing about that is, it's a loaded question. You're going to know the answer now. Did you know that the NCAA March Madness is the second highest revenued like marketable like television product that there is in the country, behind the Super Bowl? Wow. Yeah. Super Bowl sells the most ads, and then right after that is March Madness.
I believe it.
Because of how many games there are, how many different networks that they have, and how many different ad spots that they can run, obviously for a considerably less price than what you might run for like a 30-second ad in the Super Bowl. Yeah. But you might, buy a lot more ad blocks during that much television available. So it is a very large and marketable product that inevitably is going to have some type of revenue split that comes down into it. And you wonder how many programs will still be able to fund themselves once a portion of revenue splits get pulled out. I've heard numbers as high as 20%. I've heard numbers as high, like in the NFL, it's like 49-51, players and league partners. It won't be that drastic because of how much other stuff has to be handled out with regards to these budgets in college athletics. But the number is anywhere near 15 to 20% revenue splits. That will ultimately come to this sport. Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. As always, we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh's garage sale. And I'm not talking about what he did to Sharon Moore's coaching staff. I'm talking about his literal garage sale. We also have a Gimme 3. It's a very special edition of Gimme 3. The Miami Hurricanes had a very interesting kind of news and noteworthy point happen to them today worth talking about. And, of course, we're going to hit on the Kadyn Proctor news, which I don't believe is going to be the last one. But first, I want to give a quick shout-out to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you have not already, run over to prizepicks.com right now today. Use promo code Brooks. You'll get a 100% deposit match. Boys, did you know that today on Taco Tuesday, they were allowing you to bet an over on Caitlin Clark at 0.5 points?
I did not know that.
0.5 points, and you could just rack that one up, go get you another easy one, a little two-way play. That's a free $20 of just like guaranteed Prize Picks winnings right there in your little gift basket. You know what I mean? It's just sitting there for you. All you had to do is open your app today.
So there's March Madness betting that's going to open up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. We're going to be fiending. We're going to be fiending for some PP.
Oh, yeah.
All right? And head over to Prize Picks. Use promo code Brooks. Make sure you're supporting those who support us. It's a very serious thing, man. Okay? Get over there. Support the people who support us. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Like, subscribe, and rate and review. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, what in the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button today. Make us a portion of your daily habits right here on the channel. Kadyn Proctor, boys. It's some pretty crazy shit, huh?
Weird story.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't kind of remember, Kadyn Proctor, 5-star Iowa City, Iowa prospect, okay? Probably the highest rated prospect out of the state of Iowa ever. All right, this is a bona fide 5-star. He was the number one tackle on my board coming out. I think it was class of 2021, correct? Or is that 2022?
So. 2022, I believe.
Okay, class of 2022, number one tackle on our board. Ends up going to Alabama, plays as a true freshman, has a really tough year as a true freshman especially early on, playing a little bit too heavy, and then hits the transfer portal this fall. And everybody kind of freaks out about all that happenings. Class of 2023, now that I think about it. All those happenings, hits the transfer portal, ends up at Iowa. Everybody's like, that's kind of where we all thought he was going to end up, go back home, that kind of deal. Seems to be the progression of most athletes. Enter the portal at a school that you left or came out of high school to at a further distance from home. Go back closer to home on your next transfer, right? Get back to home in your next destination. Spends 3 months?
Not
3
even.
months.
3
Two
months,
and a
not
half,
even.
probably.
2.5 at Iowa. But before he even enters the portal today, there's a big controversy about tampering with him because he does an interview at an Iowa wrestling match of all places with an Iowa beat reporter. This is why this would never happen at the University of Georgia, what I'm about to tell you. Okay, an Iowa beat reporter interviewed this individual in the stands at an Iowa wrestling match in which he could, basically, what do you call it, dry snitched on his own football program for tampering, calling him during the season, checking in on him, all right? So he ends up transferring to Iowa now, back in the portal today. And will ultimately, based off what I saw, will end up back at Alabama. And my first thought process when I saw this, boys, is, ooh, check bounced. That's the first thing I thought. Check bounced.
You don't think it was part of some plan where it's like, I'm gonna go get paid by Iowa real quick and then come back to Alabama?
No. There was probably an initial down payment that he done collected. I would imagine, but I'm thinking like month 3 of the monthly installments on these NIL deals. That check bounced, and it was like, oh, the money's tight. The money is short. The money that I was promised to come back to this school, the money that we talked about when I came back to this school, is drying up. And that's not okay. And there's no more portal windows. I can come and go as I please in college football now. So I'll just go back to Alabama where I know at least my previous salary is still there and waiting for me to come back to.
I just thought he wanted to go watch Caitlin Clark play basketball.
Just for the spring?
Yeah.
You don't think he got to Iowa and was like,
it's a solid take.
Or maybe he just got to Des Moines.
Bro, he's from Iowa. What you mean? You thought he was going to be shocked about how boring Iowa
I'm saying
was?
he forgot about it. And was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm good.
Like some reculture shock, maybe.
I don't know, bro. You spent 17 years in Iowa. You can't fuck around and forget how boring that place is. That's impossible.
I mean, you spend 6 months in Tuscaloosa, you can.
We shouldn't do this too much because we went viral in the Iowa space on TikTok, and I don't know how many of those we converted to subscribers, but we probably lost all of them now.
Sorry, guys.
It's unfortunate. But no, already back. Will ultimately be back in Alabama, it sounds like. So, what's up?
Has this ever happened before where
Not
a guy
that I know of.
leaves a program and then transfers back to that program?
Not to this
because it wouldn't have
level.
been available. Used to, you'd have to sit out, right? And now he'll be the starter in Alabama in 2 weeks when he re-enrolled.
Yeah, how crappy does the tackle at Alabama feel right now? You go into spring practice and like, oh, I'm the starter, and it's like, well, that was very short-lived for myself.
One thing I would be paying attention to, and I'm not throwing any allegations out there, I would be very intrigued to find out Kaden Proctor's class schedule at Iowa this spring and see how many of those classes Kaden Proctor is sitting in. Kaden Proctor here, and then you look, and that's not the 6'7", 350-pound human that is supposed to be Kaden Proctor.
Huh.
You see what I'm getting at? There ain't no way this dude's finishing his classes this spring, but he has to. That's the whole thing about, you can transfer, you can come and go, you can put your name in the transfer portal, you can commit, you can recommit, you can do all this bullshit. But if you don't have 12 credit hours, you are not playing in August. So he's probably sitting through class in Iowa right now.
Maybe they're doing the UNC route.
What's that?
You don't remember the
Oh,
UNC
you don't remember the fake
allegations where they were
classes?
doing
Oh,
fake
fake
classes?
classes?
Yeah, maybe they're just – maybe.
Maybe.
Oh,
I mean, since COVID, dude, I feel like, especially in the high school levels, I can't tell you, I drive around the neighborhood because I work from home. So midday, I'm going to grab lunch or something. And a 16-year-old kid drive by me on a golf cart. I'm like, dude, it's Tuesday afternoon. Where the hell are you? You're supposed to be in class.
Oh, they're skipping, man.
No, they're either skipping or they have online virtual school for that day because it's like a selective thing now because since COVID, it's like an option, And
Is that still an option?
At some schools. At Georgia, is there more availability for online classes for you than normal?
There was
Or than there
for
used to be?
the first few semesters, but I'd say now mostly it's
No.
you
Okay,
can't really find them.
You can't be out here messing around.
Yeah, the last 2 years it's been mandatory attendance. There's no available online option.
I'm gonna tell you what, my last 2 years of masters, or it wasn't even 2 years. My last 2 semesters, I would say, of master's classes were all online. buddy.
Easy.
That's a Quizlet degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a Quizlet degree, dog. What are we doing? But yeah, Kaden Proctor. Here's the take. Okay, if you think Kaden Proctor is the only player that left a school to go to a new school, only to find out that that new school is drying up on money and goes back to his old school, he ain't gonna be the last one. All right, just leave it at that.
I guess we should have known this was kind of on the verge of happening with Florida and I'm blanking on the name right now. Jaden Rashada. When that kind of happened, I guess that should have been like some foreshadowing of like this could also happen with a transfer portal player very easily.
Bro, no shit. We got an Iowan. Iowan. We got an Iowan.
I believe they used Iowan.
Yeah, we got an Iowan in the chat.
I love that.
Shout out to the Hawkeye State. Is that the Hawkeye State?
It is
I
now.
mean, their mascot's the Hawkeyes.
Hell yeah,
so.
the Hawkeye State.
Sorry, Cyclones.
Sorry, Cyclones.
Shout out Corn.
This is why I made jokes about it like 3 or 4 years ago when NIL started getting rumbling and rumored. Capologist. Where are the capologists in this sport? And it's maybe one of those positions that's impossible. Maybe you can't do it because there's no actual cap, so there's nothing stopping players from walking in and constantly redemanding a new salary. You know what I mean? So how can we properly allocate funds when we don't know what we're going to have to pay for?
It also may just be impossible to know what your cap is almost. I mean, I mean, who knows? I mean, I doubt every single program knows exactly. Obviously, it seems like they don't really know exactly how much money they have to spend.
It seems like they come up further on the short end of the stick, or more often on the short end of the stick than on the long end, though.
Yeah.
You don't just find new money. You know what I mean? You kind of run out of the money that you have available. But one thing about some of these schools is, and I did some research, do you know who the biggest football booster is at Ohio State?
Oh, no.
Any guesses?
LeBron James.
Victoria's Secret. The CEO of Victoria's Secret is a massive Ohio State Buckeyes fan. Y'all know the money at Tennessee.
Yep.
Right? You know there's multiple billionaires at Texas.
Yep.
Right? Some of these schools got that long money. So there's no way you would imagine that they come up short with some of this stuff. However, I would imagine it's probably pretty hard to get some of these monthly installments. Like some of the dollar amounts that we hear about is like $40,000 a month. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy, and that's just one player. It's not easy to make sure all of those checks hit at the right time. I mean, I handle a payroll of like 6, and sometimes I don't get checks out at the right time.
Right.
So, and I'm not out here having to call in. I mean, let's say $40,000 a month times like 30, right? It's $1.2 million a month of cash you got to come up with, right? Which would check out. He said he needs $13 million a year. Hey, the math is mathing on this channel. All right. So, yeah, that's a lot of assets to be calling for on a monthly basis. And if you come up short, there's nothing stopping that player from being like, all right, well, they got it waiting on me right there. I'm just going to go back over there and pick that up.
No doubt.
Do you think we stop seeing schools pay players like immediately once this happens just because of people are going to get scared? Like, oh, how do we know you're not going to immediately transfer away after we pay you this X amount of dollars?
What do you mean, like pay up front?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's cash. I think there's down payments in some of these deals anyways.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think that stops?
No, I think what they can't do is even put these guys under contract. I think that's why all these coaches are so damn pissed off. It's not about giving them the money. I don't care about the money. It's about there's no loyalty. There's no actual like duties tied to the money. I pay you guys a salary every month. I expect something out of you, right? And I expect there to be a continuation of that contract, or at least a negotiation of that contract whenever our contract is up.
Right.
There ain't none of that. Right now, there's just a promise of, hey, I'm going to pay you this every month. And if it's not there, you're just going to F off and leave. All right. But there's also nothing stopping you from walking into my office tomorrow and saying, hey, by the way, I'm skipping practice tomorrow and I want $1,000 raise every month. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing stopping this from happening.
That's a bad business model.
It's a really bad business model. It's a business model that sees your salary expenses skyrocket. And again, it's something that Kirby Smart talked about today. This is something we're going to talk about it on the local hour, but it's worth mentioning here. I thought his point about the model screws older players right now more so than it screws the younger players. Younger players right now are making more money in college football than older players because the younger players have been able to come out of high school and demand these set salaries from their freshman year and beyond. So it's getting pretty wild. Should we give them 3?
I'd like
I
to,
love
yeah.
giving them 3.
All right, so today's give them 3. Here's how we're going to do this. I'm assuming you were watching QB1 last night. Is that what was going on here?
No, Netflix announced that they're coming out with a receiver documentary similar to what the quarterback one was.
Because quarterback one, do you know why they went receiver now?
Yeah, because all the quarterbacks said
All the
they didn't want to
quarterbacks
do
are
it.
like, F that. I'm not letting y'all do that to me anymore. And they had Patrick Mahomes, they had Marcus Mariota, and they had Kirk Cousins.
Correct.
And now they can't get a single guy to sign up for it. So all the receivers and George Kittle was like, oh, yeah, I'll sign up for it. Put a camera in my house. Let's ride. So Netflix is going to come out with, I guess, wide receiver 1 or target 1, something, whatever they're going to title it.
It's just called receiver.
Okay, it's just called receiver. So they're going to have that documentary, and it had my boys' wheels a turning today. If you could pick three college athletes or college football players, I should say, to kind of make a season-long documentary, you get to follow this athlete around all year long. What would your 3 candidates be? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so the first one I wanted to do was Caleb Downs.
Okay.
Just because his transfer process was so flawed. He was one of probably the most talented freshmen in all of college football last year. Was at Alabama, transferred to a really highly publicized school in Ohio State, national title contender. So I think watching him throughout the season would be very interesting. Second I had was Luther Burden. I think wide receivers are probably the best personalities on college football teams. And I think Luther Burden's probably one of the best players in 2024 at the receiver position. And then third one, you need a quarterback. You need someone who's kind of got flair with a coach that also is interesting. So I had Jackson Dart. I think watching Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin interact throughout the season would be very interesting, especially with the season Ole Miss is supposed to have.
So I had Jackson Dart at number 3, but for a totally different reason. I can only imagine what Jackson Dart party's like.
Yeah.
Only imagine. I mean, Oxford, he's a god at this point.
Probably.
You know what I mean? An absolute god. Blondie from Utah? He's from Utah, right?
I don't know.
He's from Utah. Will you Google that for me?
I got it.
I think he's from Utah. So anyways, I'm sure he's having
What a
a
pull.
blast out there. Well, Utah to USC. And then
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to
Yep,
Ole Miss.
Kaysville, Utah.
It's like the guy's the director of recruiting or something for Sports Illustrated Fan Nation. All right, that's Christian Kirby. Give him 3. What do you got for me?
So I did all quarterbacks, kind of like the theme of how the show goes, and I wanted to have like different personalities and different outlooks for each player. So for my first one, I have Shedeur Sanders, not because he's at Colorado and they have all the attention around them, but specifically I wanted to have a player that is the son of a former NFL standout, just kind of get that type of out and like inside information of what that's like, you know, with your father's shadow kind of looming over you. I know he plays a different position, but even on top of that, your dad's your coach. Like you have him right beside you all the time. I think that would be a great piece of information to get from a documentary, just kind of following him around, see how he goes about his business and how he feels about it. The second one, I have Dylan Raiola, you know, 5-star number 1 quarterback in the nation. You go to Nebraska, probably going to be a first-year starter. I think it'd be awesome to see how he goes throughout his whole season, dealing with pressure, dealing with how that new lifestyle is for him, being in Nebraska too, just kind of looking through his whole process there as a probable starter for the Cornhuskers. And then for my third one, Jalen Milroe, because Nick Saban's no longer there. You're now going with Kalen DeBoer. And then also he's trying to play himself into a first-round selection after this year. So looking through his process of adjusting to a lot of different things and trying to develop his own game, I think all 3 of those would be really interesting storylines.
I like that. Jay Will, give him 3. Who's your first one? The father-son one?
Shedeur Sanders.
Well, I like that. Yeah.
Shedeur would be a good one.
I was trying to steal an OLI, and now I looking in from the chat.
I was going to do Frank Gore Jr. if he was still in college.
Yeah, Southern Miss deal. Good football player over 3 years at Southern Miss. All right, here's my list. You ready? A little OLI. This one comes straight from the chat. Give me I don't even need like camera crews. Just give me the Ray-Ban footage from Conor Stalions.
Huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Probably be pretty boring, honestly.
You would imagine that dipshit left those things on accidentally in just random ass places, right?
I need audio with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like a person that has 45 used vacuums on his front doorstep would probably accidentally leave those lenses on at the most comical time.
Yeah.
You know, like dropped them into a toilet while taking a dump or just something stupid.
What?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to riff right here about jokes about Conor Stalions, and I'm not a stand-up comedian, as you can see. But yeah, what is a funny instance of accidentally leaving your video recording glasses that you walked onto CMU's sideline with?
I can't think of one, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. Getting arrested for accidentally illegally black pirating a movie that you walked into. They catch you with the blue light. Now all of a sudden, apparently those are FBI charges, right? Aren't those real federal charges?
Yeah.
Isn't that what yep, there you go. Classic. NCAA can't get him, but the FBI for pirating videos would have. Number 3, I already said it, Jackson Dart. The parties in Oxford would be nuts.
That would be fun to watch.
There's just way too much availability out there, if you know what I mean. Number 2, and there's a common theme here. I bet Bear Alexander is living a really nice life.
We were talking about that in the
there
car.
in LA. Like a really nice life.
LA penthouse.
Yeah, bud. Driving, all kinds of cars, probably not worrying about the IRS, making a tremendous amount of money on a monthly basis. You're talking about school. I don't know how much football players are really worried about school nowadays based off some of the stuff I see on Instagram.
Yeah.
I would imagine that if anybody, and I would want to see how he's working too, because I bet he works hard for like 3 hours a day. My brother was like this in college, like playing baseball, where he definitely worked hard at his craft, but everything else was kind of taken care of for him. And so you get to, have a lot of downtime and get to do a lot of fun shit, especially if you're, making like, let's just say on the low ball end, making like $25,000 a month, which doesn't go that far in LA, but probably does well.
For a college kid with no other expenses.
Absolutely.
He does quite well, I'm sure.
Wouldn't be bad at all. And then my number 1, because I'm going to be honest with you, as someone who was a real big fan of Blue Mountain State coming in, while I was in college playing college football, I thought Colin Moran's lifestyle was just epic. Just no expectations. You're the backup quarterback. No one really cares except for you still get to walk around as a handsome 6'3" individual and be a football player who also happens to play the quarterback position. And if you just say, I'm the quarterback here, no one's going to check you. Most women won't, whatever you're trying to get, done there at that point. So Lincoln Kineholes at Ohio State, okay, third-string quarterback, upperclassman, knows the lay of the land, knows how to scout the talent. Not to get too creepy, Instagram tells me he already has a girlfriend, so the theory doesn't really check out here. But he was driving AMGs. He was, having the lifestyle that we talk about nowadays with college football with no responsibilities. Like, he's got no expectations. That's zero.
That's why, I think Spencer Sanders would have been an interesting one because you transfer into Ole Miss, and you're obviously the backup. Like, you kind of transferred in maybe thinking you were going to be the starter, but you're not anymore. So just, like, seeing his thought process on the situation and seeing, like, why he's so okay, or why it seems like he's so okay with the situation that he's in, like, why you went from being a starter at a D1 program, a big program in college football, to just being a backup and, like, just being all right with it, like being chill about it.
Just being chill.
That is interesting. I think that's still swept under the rug. How Spencer Sanders started for 4 years at Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
And then I'll just go to Ole Miss and not start again.
It was weird.
Maybe he had a realization of, I don't want to play professional football. I just want to do something else with my life, but I still want to be on scholarship.
I guess.
Don't want to retire.
It's an interesting education program to enroll yourself in with those aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
You want to
no shots at the Ole Miss Rebs. But
you want to eat. If you want to,
your boy got into Ole Miss out of state in high school, and I'm gonna tell you what, the prerequisite was, do you have a pulse? And I checked yes, and they let me in.
That's,
good J school though. Apparently, good journalism school out there.
Hey, you got to be good at something, right? Everybody's got to be good at something. We had an interesting conversation when we were talking about this we had the conversation of who's going to be the best wide receiver in college football this year. And we kind of struggled for a little bit to just typically when you go into a season, like at least one name pops.
Mecca?
Maybe. And then we said Luther Burden. that seemed like a valuable option.
That's
I
the
thought of
obvious one.
Zachariah Branch, maybe he could become that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting how this year, it doesn't really feel like you just have that dude waiting on this class, like that everybody's waiting to get their hands on in this next draft class. I mean, I think we kind of feel that way at several positions this coming class.
Yeah.
But wide receiver's an interesting
I was about to
one.
say, what positions just loaded down this next class?
Apparently people are talking about the running back class next year.
Okay.
I mean, the running back class does look like it's already going to be pretty good.
That's the one everybody's kind of waiting and seeing on.
Okay.
But I mean, how many first-round running backs are you going to have for next year's draft?
If it's a great class, 1.5 would be the line.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And then the rest of the class is always filled out with line of scrimmage players, receivers, quarterbacks, and corners.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we talked about it a couple weeks back. I mean, everybody, it's way, way early. But the quarterback discussion next year is like Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, who wants to join them?
I mean, people are already saying might as well pass next year. Like, if you're waiting on your quarterback to get to your organization next year, you probably want to punt and you want to find you a solution for at least the next 2 years.
Yeah, but did they not do that the same thing last year? It was Caleb Williams and Drake May, and then we'll figure out who else you're getting it.
Let's be honest, Jaden. This is crazy. It's going to sound crazy with hindsight. Jaden Daniels was like a third-round draft selection last year.
Yeah,
after the
for
season.
sure.
Everybody was like, Jaden Daniels is pretty good. Had a decent year last year.
Right.
They won the West. Boom, Heisman.
Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, all those guys exceeded expectations last year and boosted their draft stock immensely.
Man, what would I mean, it's year 2.5 for Quinn because he got hurt very early on in year 1. But I'm wondering what kind of growth we see from guys like Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers and even Shadur. Like Shadur's second year in Power 5 football. Like that matters. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's gonna be a second year in Power 5 football with presumably a much better offensive line. So we should see some progression and some growth in those athletes.
I guess Travis Hunter can be in this discussion.
Travis Hunter could be in this discussion. I like him far better and far more as a wide receiver than I do as a corner.
Yep.
This is a weird topic, but it just made me think of it. Did you see what his girlfriend got him for his birthday?
Yeah. Wasn't it like a Lego version of his interception?
It wasn't Lego. It was like an actual miniature statue of it.
Oh, like
of
a
him
figurine.
laying out for the interception against
CCU.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Sweet, yeah.
That's
You
pretty
talk about
dope.
thoughtful gift. Don't get much better than that.
Travis has done it really, really interesting, right? Like he obviously was a big proponent of NIL coming out of high school, and had a tremendous amount of opportunities. But he's one of the few athletes, and so is Shadur, and Prime's talked about this. They're two of the few athletes that I actually see like being marketed. Like they have real companies. You know what I mean? Like I would imagine Travis is drawing a check from Bleacher Report. He does a Travis like podcast with I think it's either Bleacher Report or some TNT owned operation. So like there are real companies that put money behind both of those athletes, and they're not just drawing paychecks. He's a big streamer, I believe, as well.
A YouTube channel and everything.
That has a YouTube channel and everything. So there are revenue streams that individual has created outside of pay for play, which I would assume there's some of that going on in Colorado. Let's not be dumb, but they're actually being marketed, and
Right.
that's what this stuff was made to be. Stuff was made to be name, image, and likeness, not here's $40,000 because you run a 4.3. That's pay for play. That's two totally different things. This Jim Harbaugh story, or should we get to this Miami running back transfer story? What do y'all want to do first?
What do you want to do first?
Let's talk about Miami transfer. Henry Parrish hit the portal today. He was their leading rusher last year, over 600 yards. Guys, I didn't read up much into this story, but what I think of when I see stories like this is that there was some type of altercation,
Right.
or there has been something that has happened in the last week that is untenable between these two parties.
I mean, it's got to be that because it's such a weird time to transfer, one. And two, you're transferring at a position that it's not like there's a super high demand on the market. Two, and three, you were the guy. Like It wasn't like he was a second stringer who just hadn't cracked through the top. You were their leading rusher last year. So it's very interesting to see that he's now entering the portal now.
I mean, yeah, especially at a position like running backs. I mean, if your team needed a body, like even if you just needed somebody to be there, to tote the rock in spring practice or just to be out there for the sake of being out there, teams have kind of already gotten that because spring football has already started. Like you needed those guys already in the tail end of the winter. You need them already on your roster. So I am interested to see what a running backs market looks like at this point in the season and at this point in the offseason because, again, you would think that most programs have already kind of tied down the hatchet and everything for themselves and aren't probably looking for a running back. But, I mean, I'm sure someone obviously is out there. Running backs are very expendable, and you're always searching for somebody. I mean, every program needs a running back, but certainly timing is very interesting to me.
So there's already some Miami spin here saying that Mark Fletcher was returning to this roster and he was going to be taking carries next year. Mark Fletcher isn't even available in the spring, so I'm not going to sit here and allow that spin to be created here.
Right.
This doesn't seem, again, when your leading rusher hits the portal in the middle of spring practice, it's not, I highly doubt it's depth chart related, especially when his backup's not available. This seems to be something happened. These two parties don't want to be around each other anymore. Let's cut ties immediately. That's. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. And the quotes were nice and simple, right? Canes head coach Mario Cristobal shares that running back Henry Parrish is entering the transfer portal and wishes him well.
That's all he said?
Henry's gone. We wish him well.
Yeah, that's.
I'm going to tell you right now, ain't nothing good ever came out of Henry's gone. We wish him well. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost always some type of party disagreement. This is – we can't implement a window anyways because of antitrust lawsuit. Isn't that crazy? That even antitrust lawsuits is like you can't tell these kids where and when they want to leave and how they want to come and go and all that shit. So now there's nothing like – it doesn't matter whether or not you set it to one transfer portal window or two. The kid just can't enter his name until May. He can tell the world that he's gone anyways. You can't impact somebody from calling him either, I would imagine. He's probably getting phone calls. I saw an article immediately, him linked to Ole Miss. Wonder where that came from. You know what I mean? Just like Kaden Proctor, immediately linked to Alabama. Wonder where that came from. You know what I mean? So it's just – I don't know. We always circle right back to, damn, that kind of needs to be fixed. That's kind of weird, that's allowed.
Not exactly a great start to another year of Mario Cristobal in Miami.
No, I mean.
Yeah. It was only 7-5 last year.
I think so, yeah.
Does he make it out of 2024?
I don't think their recruiting's good enough.
7-6.
7-6. If you told me they were still recruiting at a top 8 level, I would say maybe. What's his 2025 recruiting class look like right now? That'll tell me the answer. If he's got 7 commits and they're ranked outside the top 25, I would say no go.
They have 4 commits and they're 24th.
Yuck.
Oh, they must be 4 good commits. All state of Florida kids?
I wouldn't say they're great. It's 3 3-stars and a 4-star.
Yeah, he gone.
Oof.
He gone.
Every single 3 Florida guys, 1 Georgia guy. Luke Nickel, the quarterback.
Oh,
from
yeah,
Georgia.
no, good football player. Nah, he gone. That doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't.
But that's an 8-year contract. They gave him I think was it 10? It was 80 over 10.
Yeah.
Is what they gave him. So, and that was 3 years ago. They got a couple more years of eating Mario Cristobal.
Especially if you're trying to bounce on out of there.
Yeah. You need some stability.
True.
That's
Yes.
what they'll do. They'll have a brand new coach the first year they go into the Big Ten. And it'll be somebody they overpay again. That's tough. Just got to figure out the game management portion. He somewhat knows how to recruit.
Yeah.
It seems like he
He
definitely
did
knows how
decent
to
at Oregon.
Say what?
He did a decent job at Oregon.
Absolutely. He recruited above his pay grade at Oregon for sure. And had some like initial juice when he first got to Miami from an NIL standpoint.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of tapered off. I think the Ruiz guy got tied up in some crypto nonsense. I think that didn't help. His primary NIL booster. We laugh. That's where we're at nowadays. If your primary booster gets hauled in by the IRS, you're fricked. You know what I mean? Like, you might as well just pack it in. This Jim Harbaugh story is my favorite. I got a top 5 on this.
Oh,
I got a
top 5.
Top 5 what?
All right, Jim Harbaugh had a garage sale today in Michigan. Okay, where is that? Where is the University of Michigan?
Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor had a garage sale in Ann Arbor. I would assume this is the suburbs in Ann Arbor.
For sure.
It definitely looks that way.
Nice looking house right there, brother. There you see it. Got the tables out and got all kinds of good stuff. So here's my top 5. This is the top 5 coolest finds you would have at a Harbaugh initiated garage sale. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Number 5. I have a small box at the front of the driveway that says pull here. and then you pull a tab, and on the tab, as you look down, it simply says look up, and then you look up, and Jim Harbaugh has magically appeared out of nowhere like a magic trick.
Like that meme that always floats around of him like staring directly into the camera with his goofy glasses.
Exactly. So that'll be the first initiation to welcome to the Harbaugh garage sale right there. You pull it, says look up, and you look up, and it's Harbaugh right in your face. And then I have number 4, puzzles. Lots and lots of puzzles. Just puzzles everywhere. Some completed, some not. Some framed and signed. Some just in a bucket. Don't know what that one is. Don't even have like a picture to it. Some mint condition. You know what I mean? Still with the tabs on it.
So do you think like Harbaugh's a Disney puzzle guy or like nature puzzle guy?
Just a variety and a massive smattering of puzzles. I mean, he's a millionaire. Imagine all the puzzle possibilities. You know what I mean? Number 3. This one's very specific. Fly rods. I envision Jim Harbaugh being a fly fisherman.
He got a pair of waders.
With the waders. That's a key note right there. And the waders with the boots tied into him because he's a man of efficiency.
And he's definitely got the bucket hat with the lures inside of the
Big
on
facts.
the hat.
Big facts. And it's all right next to each other. And they're privately packaged and are privately priced and bundle priced. You know, get a little bang for your buck with the bundle price. So fly rods with the waders. And again, waders tied into the boots. Efficiency matters here. Okay. And then number 2, an extraordinary, and I mean an extraordinary amount of the For Dummies books. I envision Jim Harbaugh wondering one day, you know what? How do I, change my own oil? Or how do I fix my flux carburetor in my car? Mechanics for Dummies, right there on the bookshelf.
How to keep a nice lawn for dummies.
Yes.
Yeah.
How to manage your taxes for dummies. And then number 1, it's invaluable. There's no price point on it. And matter of fact, he's definitely going to haggle you for the price point as you leave with it. He's going to say, wait, it's Ohio State's signal sheet. Sitting right there.
Full circle.
Yeah, right there. Ohio State signal sheet.
Did you see all the snow globes we had on the table?
Snow globes?
Yeah,
Dude, there's like 10 of them.
Really?
There's a bunch of snow globes on the table.
That's got to be Miss Harbaugh's fault, right?
Right there on the first table in this picture.
That's got to be Miss
10
Harbaugh.
snow globes.
There's also, if you look in the rack in the back, there's a Michigan football T-shirt.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well, that's what I thought the garage sale was for. Is like, we're getting rid of all this Michigan stuff. Come have it.
What other unique finds you think you find at a Harbaugh garage sale?
Definitely just like a plain Jane Weber grill, like
Ooh.
charcoal grill, like what you
Yeah.
see at like tailgates, where it's just like the round dome and
Yeah.
just that's got to
a
be
shit
over
ton
there.
of readers.
Just
Like a bunch. He's probably just like, oh, look at all these glasses I found, and just throw them out for $1 each.
Label maker. He's definitely got labels on all of his stuff in his
you're right.
house.
He's definitely got
He's a big
label.
label maker guy.
He's definitely doing magic tricks, right? He's definitely like pulling pigeons out of his hat.
He's that uncle at the family get-togethers.
Yeah, no doubt.
You want to see a cool card trick that I learned?
You think he's selling any sneakers? Just
Probably
like
not.
Nike 306s?
Probably
those
not.
blue lawn mow your grass with them.
The Monarchs, is that what
Yeah,
they're called?
yeah. The Michigan issued Monarchs, the big M on the back. Those things would be lit. I bet you could get a fat price on StockX for those. Dead ass.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I'm not big in the shoe world. You know what he probably does have? Old hats that are like just sweat stained
Oh yeah.
to the point where like it clearly never been washed. He's like, I'm never gonna wear this again. Here's $1.
He also strikes me as a guy who's maintained and kept the maintenance up on his lawnmower that he bought in 1996.
Oh, he's definitely got a vintage snapper.
You think Harbaugh mows his own lawn?
I mean, he's a man of principle. Daddy ain't raised no bitch. That kind of deal.
I guess. I just don't know how he would have time to mow a lawn.
The dude doesn't eat chicken.
Yeah.
He's a man of principle. I would imagine that he, like me, believes that this is my land. This is my lot in life. I'm fitting to mow this thing.
Finna mow.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
The lot in life thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I've decided on. Like lot, the term lottery comes from the biblical term lot, which was an old adage that it's predestination, right? Your lot is written on a wooden or a stone, and it is etched in stone. That is your lot in life.
Mm-hmm.
I have applied it nowadays as this is like my literal lot, like the lot of land that I own. This is the lot in life that I have earned and that I have built, and I will mow my own grass. This is my lot in life. So, yeah, he definitely mows his own grass.
Yeah.
Long story short.
I bet he wears cleats while he does it.
The unusual amount of snow globes is an oddly, like, mid-50s and beyond female thing.
Yeah. But
My mom was big into the globes, bro. Lots of snow globes at the house, as was my stepmom, as is my aunt, as is every female that is in that age range and beyond.
clearly something they've grown out of, though, because it's not making the trip with
My
them out
wife
to
ain't
LA.
globing. Your wife globing?
No.
Yeah, my wife ain't snow globing.
My mom gets the singing snowmen from Hallmark, the plush ones.
Ooh.
She's got them all lined up on the row in Christmas.
Do they dance?
Yeah.
You push a button and they
Yeah. And then my dad has, I think, like 150 nutcrackers. Dead serious.
I always got some
because of the chat, I just got the red snapper Forrest Gump joke.
Yeah.
I just got that one.
I always got mad at my mom having nutcrackers in the house around Christmas time because I wasn't allowed to use them or touch them. I'm like, why do we have these things if we can't use them for the actual purpose? And it just makes no sense to me.
You think he has like a globe that opens and it has a whiskey decanter inside of it to hide from his wife, his drinking habits?
Do you think Harbaugh drinks like that?
That's what I'm saying.
He's a
you wouldn't
seltzer
know.
dude.
He's a sneaky.
No,
whiskey
I don't
drinker.
think Harbaugh drinks.
You don't think so?
Seltzer guy.
Seltzer guy.
Seltzer.
Yeah, he drinks Topo Chico. Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
All right. I think we've milked that enough for our National Hour. We have a whole nother hour coming up. We came up a little bit short here on the National Hour for the first time in a long time. So make sure you're sticking around. We have a whole nother hour
You
of
can always do
local.
Bucket O Concept if you want.
You know what? I like your style. Bucket O Concepts. All right. So the concepts fell out of Bucket O Concepts. Go ahead and get Epic Pen set up while we rummage there, Jay Will. By the way, I spent about an hour and a half today doing audio checks. So I haven't heard anything from the chat today. No bitching, moaning, complaining. So we must have nailed that joker. So shouts out to the audio technician, a.k.a. yours truly. All right, rummage. Let's see what we can get.
We have Power.
Oh, man, Power. A play that's not often ran nowadays in football. Were you a power to the three or a power to the shade kind of football team?
3.
I was a power to the shade away from the three type of football team, and I'll explain why. All right, Power most often was this was a football play that, I think Rick Petrino is probably the only guy that's still running it. Bobby Petrino, still a big power pass football team. Power made its way through college football and through NFL football, I would say 2013 to probably 2020. And then now we start running a lot more counter. Now we do a lot more split zone action. Now we start doing a lot more traditional inside zone and wide zone actions thanks to the Shanahan boys, right? The McVays of the world, the Kyle Shanahans of the world, the Matt LaFleurs of the world, okay? The whole tree is a wide zone, inside zone team. Used to be, a lot of these coaches were power-based football teams, and here's the play. All right, so this one pops up in Georgia media spaces a lot because a media guy after the game will be like, Coach, saw y'all, man, y'all really hammered the power run game today. And Kirby will be like, well, power's an actual play. You know, power's a play. We didn't run power today at all. Georgia doesn't run it a ton. All right, so I like power to the one technique, all right, and away from the three. And I'll explain what I mean by actually, you kind of have to run it to the one because of the back block on the three technique. So let's flip the back, actually. That's what happens every once in a while on Bucket O Concepts. Your boy doesn't have a time to actually practice the concept, and he ends up sitting up here going on the fly. All right, so we're going to run power to the three technique. We're going to get a base block on the front side, okay? We got a base block on the three technique, a base block on that end out there. All right, we're going to back block on the shade. We're going to pinch hinge on that backside defensive end, okay? We cannot allow him to cross our face. We're going to take the guard, and we're going to insert him front side A gap on that wheelie right there. All right, and now how are we going to occupy that mic? Anybody got any suggestions?
Double team.
We could double team. Okay, that is not really an option because we just have the shade back here. We have the pinch hinge here. Okay, how are we going to occupy that backside backside wheelie or mic? Anybody got any options? Motion. Motion's a great way, right? We take the H, we take the slot or whatever, and we jet him across. All right, that is a great option. What's another option? Do we have another option?
I mean, Other than no, I can't think of one.
We can RPO read him. All right, we can take the slot right here and we can put him on a slant backside. As soon as we see this guy starting to creep, hey, pull it out of the belly, get it over here. You know why? Because this is a much slower developing play. We have to allow this skip pull and insert into the front side. We have to allow this 3 technique to get some movement on it, right? We have to allow all of these things to happen on the front side of this play before we even have the opportunity to make it happen. There's also a way of doing this, I just remembered, okay? If we add the H or if we add the Y onto the front side, now we can work more of a base block here with the Y. We can double team all the way back to the mic, and now we can tell this backside guard to kind of hit that thing in B gap as opposed to A gap here. So there's a multitude of ways to run power, just like there's a multitude of ways to run counter. The whole purpose of doing this, boys, is to add a hat front side, right? We're just trying to get a positive count on the play side where we're actually trying to attack. Power. Any questions, comments, concerns?
It was very trustworthy in NCAA 14.
Yes, it was. Power, I always said this one. I love my boy, Coach Bullock. Oftentimes, football coaches can get biblical. The Bible says the good Lord worked for 7 days, creating the heavens and the earth, or 6 days. And on the 7th day, he rested.
Yes.
My college football coach would always say, and on the 8th day, he got his butt up and he invented power. Power is the Lord's play. That's what Daryl Bullock used to say. I personally thought pin and pull was the Lord's play because your boy was trying to get out in space and block linebackers, defensive backs, corners. I was not trying to be in there hanging out with them nose tackles because them boys is not fun to be dealing with. Hey, got a whole another hour. Make sure you're sticking around with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
And we back. What is up? We got a whole nother hour here for you on a Tuesday here on the Film Guy Network. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that good stuff. We appreciate you for being here. We know it's a super competitive industry, man. If you look on YouTube right now, I'm sure there's dozens and dozens of people viewed as live on your feed. So for you to have selected us as your viewing partner tonight, we appreciate you for being here. Let's get right into it. Kirby Smart had a press conference today, and boy, do I have a load of notes for you guys. So let's talk about it. He opened in his opening statement about how he feels like every year they set a new record because they do for the early amount of what he calls mid-years, right? Early enrollees, guys that have signed in that 2024 signing class. They're already on campus. They're already involved in spring practice, and they're getting after, right? They're new faces on this roster. Not only does he have 22 of those, right? He has 22 of those football players on his roster, new faces and young guys that he got to get acclimated to the game and acclimated to the way that they practice and acclimated to the system and acclimated to everything that is Georgia football. He's got 6 new transfers as well this offseason. So you have 28 scholarship players that are new and being kind of onboarded into your processes this spring. It's what, a quarter of the roster? It's a third of the roster?
Yeah.
A third of the roster right there that is brand new to him and his coaching staff. That's a lot of turnover and a lot of change. I go into these press conferences with thoughts. I wanted to ask this question on Monday or last Tuesday, was not able to get it. This was an obvious one in my opinion. It was a storyline I wanted to hear about, particularly with what we've already given you guys here on the channel and on patreon.com/Brooks Austin with regard to the weight loss of some of these offensive linemen. If you guys recall, during National Signing Day, everybody wanted to talk about how big this signing class was with regards to the size of these offensive linemen. I believe they averaged 6'6", 360 pounds when they signed during National Signing Day. Kirby Smart was asked about that during National Signing Day, and he immediately said, it's great that they're big. They will never play for us at that size. Play the clip.
Yeah, Coach, I think when we spoke to you during National Signing Day, you talked about how large your offensive line class was, and you mentioned how most of them have to lose weight or will have to lose weight. I'm curious if you could provide an update on it, if anybody's gotten down to that. I think it was the 330 mark you mentioned. Nobody had played over that for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I've recognized a large group of that group. That group as a whole has been tremendous at weight loss. I don't know if any of them are, maybe a couple are right at 330, but Nair's had the greatest loss, going from 396 to, I don't want to quote, so I don't know. I mean, he's lost 40 to 50 pounds, somewhere in that window. Daniel Calhoun's lost a tremendous amount. Easley's lost a tremendous amount. Uni has done a really good job there too, and Tolliver probably had the least to lose, so he hasn't had to lose a lot. He is having to play center, new position that he's developing at. But that group across the board, it's unique to have. Most time mid-years you have 2 or 3 linemen. Having 5 is very unique. So you don't really want all 5 of them there at once because you get a recipe for disaster. But you got 5 players who are getting better a lot faster, and we've tried to integrate them into different parts of the practice, not all at once, because it's hard. It's the largest jump there is in all of sports to me, to go from a high school offensive lineman to a college offensive lineman.
All right, so the reason I wanted to know, because we had heard about Daniel Calhoun. I had not heard about this drastic transformation. From what it sounds like is the entire room. Everybody who has needed to lose weight has taken it upon themselves and gone about the extra measures to make sure it happened. He talked about Nair Daniels right there, 396. If he's down 50 pounds, that puts him under 350. By the way, losing 50 pounds in 3 months, less than 3 months. These guys got on campus in mid-December, late December. So, yeah, about 3 months of sheer weight shreddage right here happening. A, it makes me know just like how bad the weight some of them were carrying. B, it lets me know just how much they run. It confirms. I shouldn't say let me know. It confirms how much they're running at the University of Georgia. He talked about Daniel Calhoun. Didn't give you the numbers, said he's down about 40 pounds. We gave you the numbers a while back. He enrolled at 366 per my sourcing. I had somebody tell me that they saw him get on a scale prior to spring practice. He's down to 325. He's going to get playing time this year. I'm just going to let you know. That guy's going to be in the rotation. He talked about in that clip Malachi Tolliver not having to lose as much weight because he came in relatively at the right amount of weight, but he is learning a new position. Malachi Tolliver bumping into center, and this was something we talked about during the National Signing Day show. Hey, all of them are listed as tackles. All of them will not play tackle when they get to college. It sounds to me, and based off rotations that I saw, looks like Daniel Calhoun, we'll talk about this in practice observations, is going to start out at least getting some reps at guard and will ultimately kick out to tackle. But that twos group right now, which is what he needs to be running in because he's going to travel this year, that twos group's already got 2 starting tackles. Jamal Merriweather and Monroe Freeling. Put Daniel Calhoun in at one of those guard spots and let him figure it out because he's going to have to play a role this year. So that was there. And he also mentioned in that clip you heard about how he believes this is the largest jump in sports, to go from high school offensive line to collegiate offensive line play. He didn't say biggest jump in football. He said biggest jump in sports. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't prepare you for this question.
Honestly, I would disagree.
What would you say?
Well, I don't know now because it's kind of changed a lot with how development goes, but I would say like making the jump from high school to college baseball, I think that's got to be a pretty steep jump. Now, obviously, travel baseball has kind of alleviated some of that.
You see 96 the whole summer if you're playing elite travel ball.
So maybe not anymore. So maybe he is right. But I was thinking maybe somewhere along baseball, maybe major league to college. I think that's also, but
I think college hoops to the NBA. Being a 19-year-old kid, because, I mean, you think about a one-and-done kid. College hoops to the NBA, you're 19 years old, and then you're immediately going with killers. Like, guys have been doing this for 10 years. So that might be the hardest jump from my opinion, but it's definitely hard. Yeah. Kirby's not wrong.
I don't know. I remember it. I remember it vividly about just how different the speed of play feels. Like at quarterback, the speed, you feel the speed, but it's not in your face. You know what I mean? As an offensive lineman, it's right there. Defensive line, you're kind of slow to react, and that makes you feel slow on the field. When you're slow to react as an offensive lineman, you're just unplayable. You just can't get onto the field. But there's also a different level of retention and playbook that you have to remember as well. I think the quarterback position is probably the biggest transfer because of all the things you got to take into account. Troy Bowles, rare a singular player gets a shout-out. Troy Bowles got a singular, this guy's been balling shout-out from Kirby Smart today. You know, he mentioned this was a guy that didn't get to early enroll because of his high school coming out of Florida. So didn't get spring practice last year. This is his first time to really absorb reps with the ones and have an opportunity to practice with these guys. And not only did he pop up in the press conference today, he about took somebody's head off during media availability as well. It's a big, fluid athlete. You know, the track numbers on the other guys are ridiculous. Troy Bowles' track numbers weren't that. He was like an 11,200-meter runner. But of all the linebackers that they've signed in the last couple of years, from a pure like body mechanics standpoint, this guy moves well. I would put him up there with anybody. Like even Raylan feels a little knee knocked every once in a while. The big, tall, long guys can be a little elbowy, a little bit knee. They don't have the loose hips, right? C.J. Allen's perfect. They can't all be C.J. Allen.
Right.
But Troy Bowles is very close to one of these. Golly, man, he's never in a bad spot. Terrific mover, and obviously a terrifically smart football player as well. He mentioned, as we did, we talked about earlier. Remember I mentioned having to quote unquote wash the gator off of him with Trevor Etienne about, hey man, they got to teach this guy about, hey, you got to finish, like you got to run through even after you get past the defense. He talked about that today. He talked about finishing. You know, when talking about Etienne, talked about, you know, how he believes the running back position is the easiest position to just pick up a new system at, which makes sense, particularly at Georgia, where, you know, you don't run a lot of pistol, if at all. I don't even think it's in the playbook anymore. I know Monken had it in some, but I don't even think it's in the playbook anymore. At least we haven't seen it in a couple of years. So you're really not having to worry about your landmarks, where you're at. You know, inside zone's inside zone. The counter track's the counter track. You know, we check out, we do such. So the only real, you know, pick up and change that he might have is maybe like different pass protections and things like that. But running back's kind of simple. Take the ball and score. You know what I mean? I don't mean to dumb it down like that, but sometimes you really can. And Kirby attested to that today. But he also did say that he's a sponge. He really absorbs information. Colby Young, we talked about it last night, still balling out, still having a tremendous spring already through just 4 practices, but he has been dealing with a little bit of ankle injury. We will continue the injury report now. He also mentioned Jaden Riddell bothered by a hammy, and man, as soon as that happens, you go out to practice and you're like, God dang, they are really thin. They're really thin at tight end right now. It makes the Urasek signing so much more obvious as to why they did it. When talking about the wide receiver room and the transfers in particularly, talked about the 2 older guys, right? Talked about Colby Young and talked about Michael Jackson. I think they're going to be able to be impactful. But the moment he transitioned into London Humphreys, started talking about how he's a young football player. He's a young guy. I think a lot of people forget that this is only a guy who's played 1 year of college football. He's just in his 2nd year of college football. This is a developmental. He even used that development. A young player developing was his exact quote about London Humphreys. So if you are out here with the London Humphrey prop bets this year, I would take some unders on those, okay? Probably take some unders on a guy that might pop year 2, but year 1 just might be a guy who plays a role. But he did say it's really not about that this spring for the new guys. It's more about buying into the culture, making your way onto special teams, learning how to practice here, and then coming back in the fall and competing for a job. So maybe we have a different tone about this London Humphreys conversation come, September. Every time he's talked about Oscar Delp, God, the first thing he mentions is toughness. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've covered recruiting for a long time. West Forsyth ain't where I go to get street brawlers. You know what I mean? It ain't where I go to get like, hell yeah, go into a dark alley with my guy over here. We're going to come out on the other side. But when he talks about Oscar, he talks about just a rep hound. This guy's been getting hundreds and hundreds of reps since he's been here, and he's extremely durable. And to do so, to play all of those reps and to practice the way that this guy's practiced over the last, going on 3 years now at the University of Georgia, you got to be a tough son of a bitch. And that's exactly what Oscar Delp apparently is.
I guess I know how to find them. Dylan Fairchild's from West Forsyth too, so they've gotten 2 of them.
Yeah. I guess I'm not gonna say the only 2, but them some tough SOBs, especially like Dylan checks out. Wrestler, tribal tattoo.
Yeah.
Tribal tattoo on a white guy from West Forsyth, stay away. You know what I mean? Stay away. If he plus 3 bills, stay away. And that's exactly that. So, yeah, you're right. Maybe they found the two. And they got a bunch of walk-on. You know what? Maybe I misrepresented West Forsyth. Because, yes, though they are from West Forsyth, so they have the financial capabilities to be a walk-on at the University of Georgia, you still got to kind of be a psycho to willingly just, yeah, I'm going to be a hitting dummy for free. We sign up to just get knocked the piss out of every single day at practice. And that's basically what half of West Forsyth's football team has done.
Yeah.
They're all walking on at Georgia. And then, Dylan and Oscar got schollies. But the rest of them just out here doing it for the love of the game. Psycho.
Respect.
Gotta love it.
Kirby
Smart says you gotta love football.
Gotta love football. It's the key ingredient at the University of Georgia. I've been hearing all offseason about we need to grow in confidence with Carson Beck. Confidence. Even ask Carson, hey, where can you grow? Where can you grow this offseason? How are you going to grow? And he mentioned confidence. I wanted to know, what does that look like? What does it portray? When manifested in his play on Saturdays, what does a growth in confidence look like? I asked Kirby today.
Yeah, Coach, when we talked to Carson last week and asked him about areas of growth, he mentioned playing with more confidence. I'm curious what that looks like, what development looks like in the area of confidence, and if you've seen any, steps in growth.
Yeah, I think one of the big challenges for him is being comfortable and trusting the receivers around him. He's had the fortune and misfortune of Brock and Ladd and Marcus Rosemary being in the lineup, but yet he's also had the misfortune of them not being in the lineup. And as a quarterback, you ask any good quarterback, they like wide receivers they trust, they know, they have intuitive ability to think the same way, and there's a lot of change in that room right now. So showing confidence in himself and showing confidence in those players to do their job and trust them is a big part of it. That trust is not given, it's earned, and they're earning his trust, and it goes both ways.
I thought it was a confidence and, like, willing to throw certain footballs. I can make that throw type confidence. Like, give me 4 of the Kentucky throws every game. You know what I mean? Can I just aspire for something crazy like that? Because if you do that, you win a Heisman. What I never really, and this is why his football brain is different than others. Okay, what I never really put to thought was, hey, buddy, it's not just confidence in his own play. It's confidence that he knows the other guy's going to do what he thinks he's going to do. And that is so vital for quarterbacks nowadays, where back in the 90s, old quarterback listening today, Joe Montana got to take a 5-step drop and know exactly where Jerry Rice was going to be. He's running 7 steps, and he's going to the post. He's taking 9 steps, going to get outside leverage and take a vertical. He's taking 3 steps, and he's running to his slant. It's called the West Coast offense. It was all based off timing. Well, nowadays, everything has kind of morphed into a version of West Coast pro style. Got to have those concepts. But also, everything's option related, right? So if the defense does this, we're going to do this. Right? So we're never in a wrong spot. We always have answers. Well, in order to do that, I have to be able to dictate and predicate body language and what you're going to do. If I see that they're running cover 4 and I expect you to stop and sit that go ball down at a comeback at 12 yards and you don't do so, the next time I'm not going to be confident to throw that football, right? Confidence also plays into, as Georgia finally pulls one out in their NIT tournament. We just got the final 78-76. They almost blew that one.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was nuts. They were up 23 points and almost lost that football or basketball game. Confidence, guys, never crossed my mind to think it also has to do with knowing, exactly having continuity and rapport with your wide receiver corps.
Well, I guess it's something we haven't really thought about because it really hasn't felt like it's shown up on the film or like when you watched them last year. That wasn't necessarily something that you felt like was off. Like it never seemed like him and his wide receivers were off. But I could certainly see that being something that comes into play this season, especially just because you're bringing in quite a few new bodies. I mean, you lost Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers and Marcus Rosemi-Jacksaint to the NFL draft. So you're having to work in some guys that you necessarily haven't spent time previously working with, even on like second string unit or anything like that previous in your career. So maybe it's just more so like this is something that he's now fixated on going into this year because it's now something that's come up.
This strikes me more as a trust thing than confidence. I mean, I guess it's the same thing, but having trust that your players are going to do what you expect them to do seems like more of the word you'd want to use than confidence. I don't know. That might just be me.
Well, it's trust and confidence in the sense that I trust him to do that. and I'm confident in that enough to throw this football.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
these are all decisions made at split seconds, and it's why the lesser talented, always smarter than wide receiver worked out for Tom Brady. Right? Tom Brady is the definition of a timing-based, option-based quarterback. If you weren't in the right spot at the right time, you just couldn't play for him. I'm not saying Carson is that, but we have examined and we have talked about Carson as the best processor that Kirby Smart's ever had at this spot. Maybe JT Daniels, maybe. But I don't think JT Daniels had the physical capabilities to make the plays that Carson does, and that's the difference, right? So if he is that, then as a weaponry standpoint, consistency is it's the last infinity stone for this individual. Yeah, apparently it's official. Kaden Proctor back to Alabama.
That's crazy.
I don't know how that's official, but they're talking about it as if it is such. But that wasn't the only clip from this interview or this press conference that I want to talk about. We've been talking a ton about the changing landscape of college football. We've been telling you, hey, there's a lot of decision makers, but there's really one. His name's Greg Sankey. Give him all the credit and all the blame for what we're about to have. It sounds like Kirby Smart is not only optimistic about the future and of the landscape of college football, but he also ain't complaining about the current landscape of college football.
And just kind of the state of things. There was so much talk in the offseason about college coaches wanting to move on because of everything going on. And did you have any thoughts on that? And do you have some confidence that the leaders in college athletics are going to come up with solutions that'll make it so college coaches like you want to stay?
Yeah, I think the leaders are going to do a great job positioning us for the future in terms of what they do. The choice of each college coach is obviously up to the college coaches. I mean, there's certainly higher stakes and higher pay than there's ever been for college coaches across the board. I mean, there's the guys making money, making livings that, coordinators can retire now. They don't have to go get a head job. You look back even 10 years ago, how much has changed for coaches. So there's no crying out there from my end. I want what's best for the student athlete, and sometimes I question the system we have now if it's best for the student athlete, because it's not necessarily best for the sophomore, junior, and senior. It may be best for the freshman, but it may not be best for the sophomore, junior, and senior. I would love to see a little more fair system for the players in terms of within the players. But there's not a lot of – I don't have a lot of coaches complaining, saying they want to get out of the profession. They enjoy the profession. They want the profession to be about relationships, developing talent, and rewarding positive performance both on and off the field. And that comes through what you've done in your body of work of being there, not necessarily where it's a reverse system of the younger players sometimes get more than the older players.
Back. All right, so a lot to pick from that, right? First and foremost, the thing that stuck out to me was his quote about coordinators. Coordinators making so much money now that they don't have to take head coaching jobs to make enough money to have like real life-changing amounts of income to where you can retire in your late 50s. Maybe a little shouts to his current guy.
Yeah.
Maybe a little shout right there to his current guy. My current guy makes almost $2 million a year. Like if he don't want to be a head coach, he don't never have to. Why go be the head coach at Troy to make $2 million or whatever Troy's head coach makes? Probably not even $2 million. You know what I mean? Why take a pay cut when I get this much money at this school that I'm at? So that really stuck out to me. Obviously, I'm not crying. He always ends it with that. Like I'm not complaining about that. But it's also this is like the University of Georgia talking, and even he I think fails to realize his biases here when he talks about I ain't got nobody talking about quitting around me. Well, buddy, you're the head coach at the University of Georgia, dog. Like
You winning.
Your guys are making $1 million plus, okay? If they're not, they're making $800,000 as a position coach. And by the way, he didn't quit coaching football, but he just left to go to the NFL. Now, that also says a lot about your program and Brian McClendon's ability to do that, right? He took a lateral job, took the same position, wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator, at an NFL organization. That says a lot about your organization. It basically tells me you're the 33rd best organization in all of football is what that tells me, right? And that guy got to take a job at what, like 27? 28, 29, something like that. I mean, they're not a bottom third in the NFL, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's kind of a lateral move for him. But you coach at Georgia, so your guys are probably really happy. They make a lot of money. They get to recruit with the G on their chest. Yeah, they work hard, but everybody does in this profession. But there are a lot of guys elsewhere that are kind of, hitting the hills on this sport because of the nature of it. But he's never been one to complain, even though apparently he did kind of complain. That's why they asked him. But he didn't really complain on the record today.
It is interesting, though, because, like throughout Kirby Smart's career at Georgia, he has selected specific moments, not necessarily to complain, but to, like, stand on the soapbox and preach to whatever is on his mind. A lot of the times it's been about the college football playoff when he needs to make a stand for his own team or whatnot. It is interesting that with everything that is going on around college football, that this is one where, at least in this setting, he's kind of taking a step back as like, I ain't complaining. Like, I'm just going to go keep doing what I'm doing.
And that's going to kind of be the headline grabber. I ain't complaining.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody leaving me. That's going to be the headline grabber. But the important, he gave you a real nugget. He gave you a real nugget in that quote right there, talking about younger players making more money than older players. And that is the reality of the situation right now. You have starters at the University of Georgia, at the University of Alabama, at wherever, insert your favorite program right here. You have starters at your program who are making less money than the fourth-string freshman that just showed up on campus. That is fact. That is happening all across this country, and it doesn't really make any sense. The older players don't have a ton of leverage. Their only leverage is to F off and go to the league or F off and leave. Their options of making more money right now at their current institution is very rare unless they're a dude, unless they're an absolute dude, because money is being allocated to bring in the next round of football players. Okay, that is how this is working right now. Prime example, there was a starter in the SEC this year that left his program and went to another SEC program. The program that he left signed 3 borderline 5 stars at his position. That's what's happening, okay, all across the sport. And he mentioned that's the effed up part of the system right now. I don't mind rewarding players, but let's find a way to reward all of the players, not the incoming players who haven't done anything, right? That's what all these coaches like Nick Saban have talked about. I don't care if you make money, but can we earn it? You know what I mean? Is that a crazy thing to ask? Can we earn the money instead of just demanding the money when we're 17 years old and then getting to campus and deciding, oh, I'm not starting, so I'm going to demand more money at the next school? What?
Yeah.
That's a little outside of the norm right there. We also found out the mantra, the 2024 mantra today. So how about that? Do you
Already,
know what it is? Yeah, we found it out.
I saw it. I can't remember what it is, though.
Assume nothing.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Assume nothing in the mantra is the mantra, and it comes directly from Phil Knight and Nike. Apparently, he was doing some studying up on Nike, had some conversation. Phil Knight name dropped in the middle of this press conference. Apparently, Kirby and Phil Knight are buddy-buddy.
Didn't he mention that they vacation together or something
Yeah,
like
I
that?
said something about that.
It was out in Aruba.
Like 6 or 7 times, I think is what he said.
Not bad. Not bad. There's some bona fides right there with
Yeah.
the level of life that Kirby Smart's out here living. But he gave me the quote. You know I love this. I say shit like this all the time. You want to be successful? Study successful people. Yeah, it's right on. I can't tell you how many people outside of even the broadcast journalism space I'm out here studying all the time because they got great habits. I have terrible habits. I'm trying to make better habits. But yeah, we found out that one. You want to be successful, study successful people. The new mantra this year, assume nothing. Okay? What does it mean? What do you think he means by that?
Well, don't just assume that you're going to walk into this season and be the top dog like we have been in the past. Don't just assume that we're going to run the SEC like we have over the last 3 years or so, Can't make assumptions like that, especially going into this year.
Don't assume that you're entitled to anything. Like, there's a lot of new guys that are coming, like a lot of positions that are open this year. Don't assume that it's your position, you're entitled to it. So
Hell yeah.
I think that's probably another good mantra.
You know what they say when you assume?
Exactly. You and me.
You guys get it. These guys get it. Welcome into our local hour. We have some more notes on media availability. I have practice notes for you guys today. We have a freaking player of the day for today's broadcast as well. And we're going to play a really fun game later on today of Would You Rather. Super excited about that one, but also super excited about our partners over at Prize Picks. It is Taco Tuesday. There are West Coast basketball games you can get in on right now over on Prize Picks. Use promo code Brooks. You get a 100% deposit match. You know what that means. Put up to $100. You will get instantly matched with $100 right there on that spot. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you have not already. I see them dog fans trickling in. I'm so glad that we have trained you guys. It took about 6 months, but we have finally gotten it. I just wish all of you guys would show up in droves for our national hour. I know there's another guy talking. That's fine. But just do me a favor. Go back and watch it. I think there's some really great stuff. I know there's some really great stuff in those hours that we do on national college football. Jared Wilson, boys. Jared Wilson is a freak athlete. Jared Wilson is probably the most athletic offensive lineman that Georgia has had in recent memory. Kirby Smart said today that he's excited for the rest of the world to get to see this guy, and that this guy has GPS numbers that are as high or higher than, quote, most of his defensive backs.
Is that good or bad?
It's probably a little bit of both. And what I think he means by this is not like peak metrics.
Right.
I think he's talking about like, there's days where his average speed during plays is higher than defensive backs. Right. Or whatever metric they go by, because it's probably not, if I were a catapult tracker, I would want to know your average velocity of movement. Like I was thinking today while at practice, watching some guys walk around, like your catapult is just probably reading, just blaring red, cut this guy when you're walking around.
Yeah.
Because they have massive, they probably have a metric that says this guy walked this much today. I'm dead ass. Just like they have video cameras at these weight stations nowadays that are counting reps. If you skip a rep, it shows up in your post lift workout checklist. They see it.
Yep.
So and so did 8 reps on the set of 10. They don't tell you. They don't tell you that this is going on. They just make a little note. Just make a little note over there. Because it's cutthroat business. You just lost money, essentially, every time that happens. That was interesting to hear just how crazy athletic Jared Wilson is. 300 pounds moving, like the chat is talking about right here. We also got an opportunity to talk to this young man, and that was my first takeaway during his media availability. He is a tremendously bright young man. And fun fact, gentlemen, do you have any guesses where he accredits his massive amount of athleticism to?
His mama.
He does love his mama. It is not his mama, even though his mama was, I believe, a collegiate basketball player. It's not where he put his credit.
I have no clue then.
His math teacher.
No. He was a soccer player growing up.
Oh.
Played a lot of soccer during his entire youth, he says. I would imagine he played soccer until they were like, hey, no moss for the big fella.
You too big for this shit.
Yeah, no moss for the big fella. He can't be out here
God, that'd be
doing
scary,
this.
though.
Yeah, probably would be. I think we should watch his tape here in a little bit just to kind of realize why he was my first ever my guy. Jared was a very interesting story coming out of high school because he committed to Georgia, decommitted from Georgia, committed to North Carolina, decommitted from North Carolina, committed back to the University of Georgia. He was also a 3-star high school football player, despite the fact that he was a walking O. He was like Ryan Puglisi, the offensive line version. He only camped. He didn't go to Rivals. He didn't go to 24/7. Well, they don't have camps, but he didn't go to Under Armour availabilities. He didn't do any of these things. He just played high school football and just went to Power 5 camps. And every Power 5 camp, whether it was Ohio State, whether it was Alabama, whether it was LSU, Georgia, North Carolina, wherever he went, he left with an offer. And when I start seeing those things, I remember if you search our channel and look at our Jared Wilson film breakdown from high school, I remember pounding the table for him as a my guy, and I also remember talking about how stupid I thought it was that the industry wasn't paying attention to somebody who was walking away from the nation's biggest programs with committable offers. Do we have it?
Yep.
Let's watch this right now.
This is junior season.
Yeah, that's fine. The first clip's all we need to see. I'm pretty sure he pulls out into space and just drills somebody in a scrimmage game. And I also asked him what he thought the most important thing was with regards to learning how to snap as a high school tackle that moved into the to the center position when he got to college. A pretty difficult transition, and a transition that some of his teammates are having to make right now. Guys like Tate Ratledge learning having to snap this spring. Guys like you would imagine Micah Morris probably learning how to snap. Xavier Truss probably having to figure it out as well. There's some guys on this roster right now who are learning to have to snap for the first time. He told me the only tip he had for him, snap the ball first. And I'm going to be honest with you, kind of a cop-out of an answer. I think there's a variety of different things you got to worry about with snapping. Like, for example, you got to have a determined landmark based off your footwork. And what do I mean by that? Every time I take a certain step, right? I got outside zone footwork. I got to have one landing point on my inner thigh for that footwork. I got a 6-inch inside zone step. I got to have one landmark on the inner part of my thigh for that, right? Ooh, I'm pass setting. Guess what? I'm not hitting my leg at all. At least I didn't. That's how I went about it. I had a different landmark for the perfect snap for every different individual step. You do that right now, I promise you, you'll become a better snapper. All right, let's watch this tape. I can tell you right now, there's our big fella. He right there. All right, so let's see what he does. I guarantee he pulls out and kills number 5. What do you want to bet? This is how my brain works. Actually, he kills the linebacker.
Timmy, no.
Dang, Timmy. Yeah, buddy.
Buries him in the
That's
freaking
some
end
effort.
zone.
That's some high effort right there. The skip pulls on this tape are elite. Look at this. Just out here. High effort finish, baby. 3-star, dog. 3 stars. Oh, look. Oh, we spotting the blitz, too. Don't worry about it. We out here thinking. Oh, we're going to finish that one, too. Yeah, we're going to finish that one, too. Good ball from the
Yeah, I
Q.
was about to say.
Good ball from the Q. Here we go. What we got? You can see he was carrying a little bit of excess weight in high school. He's playing probably about 340 right there. He's down to I would say about 305 right now. So we've lost a tremendous amount of weight since playing high school football. There's some skip pulls that I vividly remember because I wrote his SI All-American eval. So we're going to hang out here until we see him because they are a work of freaking art, and you can really see the athleticism. That's him uncoiling those hips as a high school football player. Again, folks, this is our guy Jared Wilson right here, Georgia's new starting center. Yeah, that was just a little, I'm better than you. I'm just going to be out here bitching. You see why this is the biggest transition Kirby Smart believes, right?
Yeah.
Because you're never going to see a player like this ever in front of you again once you get to the next level. He's over there at right tackle. Come on, I want some of these skip pulls, man. I remember it being kind of further into the film study. But he gets around, man. It's not like a pull. It's like we're going to skip and get vertical after 2 steps. Looks like some weight on his inner thigh right there. Ah, come on. Give me some athleticism. I'm going to wait for it. I am. I'm diligent. There he is on the second level. Just hand shot from hell right there, isn't it?
Oh, I heard him too.
Yeah. All right. This is one. Yep, there it is. Son.
Ugh.
Did you see the twitch?
I didn't see it. Wait, run it back.
I knew it. I knew he was going to get one. This is how my brain works, man. It doesn't do any good for any other, thing other than football clips, but that's how it works right there.
It's tough.
Yeah. You wish it'd be like numbers or something that I can make money with. Wouldn't be living in my mom's basement. All right. Shout out to Jared Wilson. Going to be really, really good this year. Super excited to see what they do with them, man. Like, in years past, Sed did all the calls and handled all the leadership, and they were always in the right spot. But what they didn't do a ton of was the stuff that like Jason Kelsey does, where Jason Kelsey's like getting out on the edge, and they can add hats, and they can just use, like we got a shade technique, all right, to the left of the center. We're going to use the left guard, block down, and then pull around because we know Jason can run down the linebacker. Well, that's available now to you because Jared Wilson can do those types of things. So, yeah, super excited about his future at the center position. Super excited about watching it here on tape for you guys over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin this fall. Jaylen Walker was made available to the media today. We'll make this one quick. Coach's son to a T, man. I think you're going to see Georgia prioritize these types of football players more and more. It's ideal that Jaylen Walker was a top 100 player coming out of high school. That's great. Don't get me wrong. But it is no coincidence that they have a plethora of these types of individuals that were either sons coaches or dad's a military guy or mom played college athletics at a premier level or this is a son of a former NFL football player. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is pedigree matters more than ever before because if I know that you have a solid pedigree, if I know that you have at least stable environments around you, I know you have stable voices around you. You don't have people telling you, hey, we just got to go get the next bag or hey, we got to go here because so-and-so doesn't believe in you. F that guy, son. You're way better than that kid. You should be playing. Those types of statements come very, very few and far between with, guys who are actively coaching like Jaylen Walker's dad. I highly doubt Jaylen Walker's dad has ever told him anything other than you need to sit there and develop, right? Because he knows what is best for his son is probably you need to play inside linebacker on Sundays. So who's going to develop you to be the best inside linebacker possible? Probably that Glenn Schumann guy. I probably trust him with everything in regards to that inside linebacker position. So this is a football player who has never wavered. He's never shaken despite the fact that it's going to take him a while to get onto the field.
So is that where they've been playing him this spring?
Yeah, I mean, he's spent most of his time this offseason and this spring developing better instincts at the inside linebacker position because the edge rushing stuff comes so naturally to him. Mm-hmm. His ability to get after the quarterback is instant. It is something like breathing for him. It is very, very easy. It's something getting after the quarterback is something that is second nature. Reading guards pulling and shedding blocks and striking blocks inside the box and not getting caught up in the wash as the H-back crosses our face. Simple things to a guy like Nakobe don't come second nature for a guy like Jaylen Walker, who, like Kirby said today, played more of what they call a Sam star, which a Sam star is the opposite of a nickel star, which is what Georgia plays. A Sam star is more like what Clemson plays, where their fifth quote-unquote DB is actually a linebacker that's undersized and more athletic like a Barrett Carter. Georgia is a 4-2-5 nickel star football team, which is why he had to make the transition inside.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So there you go. Jaylen Walker, tremendous, tremendous young man to listen to. All right, now Chaz Chambliss made news today.
I want to hear about this.
Yeah, so my phone was about to die. I didn't have an opportunity to record it. But you know how I am. When I hear these guys talking and I hear a specific football voice, they all sound the same. Not how they sound, but the words that they use, their diction, right? Their syntax. How they talk about this game, they all sound the same. Every great football coach sounds the same. They approach topics the same way. And I hear this in some of these young players, particularly at the University of Georgia, because all they do is produce smart football individuals. But listening to Chaz Chambliss talk today and listening to Chaz Chambliss talk after all these years, you know who he reminds me of? Honest to God.
Who?
He reminds me of a tatted up version of Glenn Schumann. When I listen to Chaz Chambliss talk, I hear Glenn Schumann. That's what I hear. I hear a very introverted, methodical individual who thinks about this game on a very, very different level. So after about 8 or 9 minutes of him talking today, I asked him straight up, hey, Chaz, when you get done playing football, I know you want to play forever, play as long as you possibly can. But have you given any thought to what you might do when you're done with this? Trying to see if football was something that he was interested in after he got done playing. Like, I want to coach. No, his initial answer was, I've been cross-training in MMA, and I think I might get into the octagon when I'm done with this.
That would be insane.
The B-roll on that would be nuts. He's not going to talk. Maybe that ought to be his bit. Like, he just does no talking.
You can have my credit card information right now for that pay-per-view.
Oh, I'm signing up.
Every single fight, I'm tuning in.
What would he fight at? Probably.
He's fighting at 225. Or what,
he could get.
What is it, light
he could get down.
heavyweight?
He could get down to light heavy if he wanted to.
Yeah, but
Ooh,
I would
that'd be fun to
envision him
watch.
cutting weight, right? Because he walks around at like 240 right now, 250. Is there a bantamweight at like 225, or do you have to get all the way down to like 185?
180 is the next. 185
All right,
is
so
the next one.
he's probably gonna be in light heavyweight.
Yeah.
There's some bad dudes in that light heavyweight division, but
Yeah,
he a
there are.
bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
He
is.
is.
He a bad dude. Pops was a drill sergeant.
That'll
Yeah,
do it.
That makes sense.
It does, doesn't it?
That makes
It
sense.
makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Just every time, the most intense eye contact ever. Even when he's done answering your question. Today, I asked him 2 questions. The second time, after I asked him this one, he's staring at me, holding eye contact. You know me. I ain't going back. I was looking right at him. Okay? The other guy's asking a question, and he's lingering with me. While the other dude's asking a question, at that point, I bitched out. I was like,
You go get your ass beat.
I acted like I was taking notes. I was like, sir, I'm sorry. Sorry, sir. But no, somehow, some way, he got, asked about, or talking about MMA. And Leland was there, so I don't feel bad about telling you this. I thought the extended eye contact was him looking at me like, why would you ask me about anything other than football? Like, I'm obviously going to play for a long time. Why would you ask me, of all people, what my thoughts are when my football career was over? So as he was walking out, I kind of, made sure I was out there and just told him, like, man, I think honestly, it might be me manifesting my own feelings about where I'm supposed to be in life. Like, I feel like I'm called to coach or educate the game of football. And every time I hear someone else that I know loves this game and speaks about it at that high of a level, like Cedric, I've told Cedric straight up, it would be almost a crime if you don't give back in the form of coaching to this game, because your mind is that brilliant for this sport, and this sport needs people like him to be around it. And I told Chaz the same thing. I feel like people like you need to stick around this thing, but that might be me just pushing my own feelings of myself subconsciously onto other people.
What did he say?
He was just like, no, I totally understand that. Like, I've never thought about it that way, but it makes sense, And he agreed that people like, if you're a great football mind, you need to be around it. You need to be here. We don't have a lot of them, especially, they're all on the college level, but we don't have a lot of them around the entire sport itself. Should we get into practice notes?
Yes.
What you got?
I got a bunch. I feel like I've been talking for a while. Actually, before we get into practice notes, can we do this either or? Because I'm lightheaded, honest to God.
Ooh, would you rather?
It's like 30 minutes of me talking.
You want a good party game?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a would you rather. Explain the topic.
Everyone
I got some good ones. I got 6 of them.
Everyone knows would you rather. It's you name 2 scenarios and you got to pick which one you want. So I figured why not do a couple Georgia scenarios today. So
yeah.
You want me to go first?
Would you rather Trey Scott leave the program for a head coaching job or Todd Hartley leave the program for a head coaching job?
That's tough. My initial choice would be Todd Hartley, because I don't think that you can win consistently without having strong defensive line play and controlling the line of scrimmage, and Trey Scott has had that for you since he's been there. Todd Hartley, he's amazing. Todd Hartley is giving you some of the greatest tight end play you're ever going to see, but teams have won without strong tight end play before. You don't see a lot of teams winning without elite defensive line play, or at least good defensive line play that can stifle a run game.
What if I countered and said that you're the University of Georgia, look at the 24/7 rankings and tell me how many defensive linemen in the top 200 are from the state?
That's true.
I was going to
– This dude Hartley has made his room great nationwide.
It's true.
Nationwide.
I was going to go this route of – I initially was going to lean Trey Scott, but now I'm kind of leaning Todd Hartley, not only because of he recruits the tight end position great, but he's becoming a guy that they rely on everywhere. Like, this is a known recruiter across the board for them. Like, he's one of your keynote guys for outside of his position group. So I think that he's just one of those guys that you really got to keep around your program just for the sake of having that personality and that grasp of that younger generation trying to get them to come to your program. I think he's a very important person for that across the board.
And Todd's the one who, for the last 4 years, has been sitting next to the OC in the box.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that means anything other than, to me, on the surface level, what it looks like to me is he is trying to learn how to call plays. That's what it looks like to me. And Todd, as a position coach, you have an option. You either become the best position coach in the country at your job, and then you take a job like Georgia State, a.k.a. the Dell McGee route, or you become the best position coach at your job, and you become an offensive coordinator, and then you take a Power 5 job after that as a head coach. I don't know what the future holds for Todd, but I would keep him because of the unique of elite that he's had, right? Trey,
gotcha.
I'm not saying Trey's been elite, but Trey has been elite here. He's been elite at the home base, and I'm not saying anybody can do that, but it's easier to do that than it is to go pull Jaden Riddell out of California.
Yeah, I mean, the only rebuttal to that is it wasn't this way until Trey Scott got here. I mean,
That's
you
true.
went 13 years, was it, before you had a player drafted?
From 2000, it was the Atkins cat all the
Keno
way
Atkins,
up until Malik would have done it, but all the way up until Jordan Davis.
Yep.
No defensive lineman drafted. Interior defensive lineman. He had some edge rushers.
Yeah, I was going to say edge rushers. They had I got one.
All right, let's hear it.
Would you rather guarantee Mykel Williams or Malachi Starks returns for the 2025 season?
Jeez.
Ooh, give
Starks.
Give me Starks. The safety room's not near as deep as the edge
that's the only
class.
reason why.
The edge room's stupid deep. It almost is too deep.
Yep, that's the only reason why.
Would you rather have a permanent first-round tackle, offensive tackle, or a permanent first-round defensive tackle?
Ooh.
So you either have Andrew Thomas or Jalen Carter.
I'll take defensive tackle.
Yeah, I probably would too.
Because
Game wrecker. That dude FSU's fuck shit up.
You can be okay and survive as an offense if you just have like a good college tackle, 4-year starter, maybe not gonna. Yeah, you can make it in that realm. But if you don't necessarily have those difference makers on the defensive tackle room, like at least for like years upon years stacked upon one another, that can start to hinder you a little bit.
You also need consistent tackle play at 2 spots. I mean, if you have a great left tackle but your right tackle sucks, I mean, it's not going to help your pass pro because they'll just attack you differently.
Would you rather Georgia have a 1,000-yard receiver this year or a 1,000-yard rusher this year?
I'd rather them have a 1,000-yard receiver so I can stop writing the goddamn article every
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Every offseason.
I think
since I've been here, that is the most repetitive article we've written. No. Will Georgia wear black unis? I milked that sucker for everything it is worth.
Hey.
That cow is dehydrated at this point, bro. But anyways, I would definitely rather have the 1,000-yard receiver.
You're with the receiver too?
I would go with receiver as well, just because it'd be so exciting to watch. Like, it hasn't happened in 20-something
oh my
years.
God, could you imagine?
Oh my God,
I forget about that. That when you have a 1,000-yard receiver, that guy dominates multiple times.
Yeah.
He has like Jermaine Burton against Mississippi State like 5 times in 1 year. What? That would be so fun to watch.
Exactly.
Call me crazy, but I'm going with 1,000-yard rusher for this year because I think that if you have a 1,000-yard rusher this specific season, then that offense elevated that much more. I think that with Carson Beck being at the quarterback position, you're going to get your passing yardage, whether it's spread amongst 10 wide receivers or 8 wide receivers or whatever. Like if you just have like 4 guys that have 600-plus receiving yard seasons or whatever you want, then your offense is going to be okay. But if you topple that with a 1,000-yard rusher like Etienne this season, I think that completely elevates your offense, and it kind of makes you even more well-rounded than you already are.
Would you rather spar with Chaz Chambliss for 3 minutes or have to tackle Rod Robinson 20 times to the
What
ground?
the hell? My question is basically
20 times?
20 times.
I have 15-minute cage fight with Chaz Chambliss or 10 Oklahoma drills with Rod Rob.
Dude, I'm not
Nah,
surviving.
Dude, 15 minutes is way too long. I'm talking about 3 minutes. 3 minutes is an eternity.
If we're
inside of a
sparring,
cage. You're locked inside of a cage with Chaz Chambliss.
Are we sparring or are we fighting?
Nah, you're sparring. I mean, he can't kill you. No knees to the face.
Both of them are going to create permanent damage
Then
to the body.
I would
You think
honestly,
so?
Yeah.
I would honestly rather do sparring with Chaz.
Yeah.
Rod Rob going full out against you would be
20 times.
20
You're
times.
leaving with CTE.
Yeah, even
I'm
the pads
telling you.
ain't saving nothing for
Yeah,
me.
no,
if
you're
That's going to hurt.
sparring. You can at least like get away with, like, he's not fully going trying to kill you. It'll
But
suck, but
in 3 minutes, he's going to get you. He's going to tag you hard.
for sure, for sure.
And even if you get knocked out, we just have to wait until you come to, and then we stop the clock. We wait for you to come to, and then you got to finish the 3 minutes.
Yeah, I would still much rather go against Chaz than try to tackle Rod Rob 20 times in a row.
Neither one of them.
I mean, neither one sounds fun.
Would you rather have a Heisman winner and you're the 3rd seed in the playoffs, okay? A Heisman winner and the 3rd seed in the playoffs, or be the number 1 overall seed?
Haheisman 3rd seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You haven't seen
getting
it.
a Heisman would be really dope.
But you lose an SEC championship game to Alabama again.
But you're top 4.
But I mean, if you're in the playoff, you're in the playoff at that point.
Yeah,
And you get a home game this year. It's a no-brainer.
I have a better one than that one.
All right, let's
but it has to do with the Heisman. Would you rather Carson Beck win the Heisman this year or Malachi Starks win the Thorpe Award and C.J. Allen win the Butkus at the same time?
Carson Beck won the Heisman.
Yeah, I can see the other one happening. I don't even have to wish it upon it.
Yeah.
to
You
happen.
think both of them, though?
Yeah, I think it's very plausible that he could win the best linebacker in the country award and he could win the best safety in the country award. I think that's far more plausible, honestly, on this face value than Carson even winning the Heisman.
Yeah, and I'm also, like, as prestigious as the Thorpe and Butkus Award are, like, Heisman Trophy winners, like, those guys are known nationally. Like, if you went around and asked 50 college football fans who won the Butkus Award last year, you probably only get 10 of them to tell you. If you ask them who won the Heisman last year, pretty much everyone will know. So I think a Heisman season is much more lucrative.
You got a couple more?
I got a bunch more if you want. I got a good one, though.
Give me a good one.
Would you rather guarantee Kirby Smart coaches for 10 more seasons or guarantee you get 20 straight years of first-round quarterback play?
First-round quarterback
Yeah,
play.
first-round quarterback play.
Really?
20 straight years of first-round quarterback
You
play?
said 10 years of Kirby Smart?
You're guaranteed 10.
I think this is just my assumption. I think you get close to that if you don't even already. Like, I think you already at least get close to that number, like maybe around that realm. First round quarterback play for the next 20 years. I mean, that's almost guaranteeing that you are going to be competitive.
How many 7-5 first-round quarterbacks are there? Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams.
Jaden Daniels was on a good football team this year. Bo Nix was on a winner. J.J. McCarthy won a national title.
Michael Penix
played for it. You get first-round quarterback play. Drake May was on a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You get first-round quarterback play. It looks like you're 3 out of 5 to be playing for, meaningful games at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I would probably take the quarterback play for 20 years. All right, this is instead of a would you rather, this is a which is more likely. More likely to get open in a one-on-one rep versus Ellis Robinson, or more likely to get by Daniel Calhoun for a sack?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, dude, I'm not winning either of those.
I thought you were about to say, I think I can nab Ellis Robinson right now.
That's my only hope. I was about to say my only
back
hope.
Shoulder.
My only hope is that I could just maybe get one over the top. That's it. That's all I got. I definitely am not. No, not the other one.
Yeah, Daniel Calhoun's gonna eat you alive.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's so large. I think you could maybe speed rush.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's
You
what I
could
was
probably have
thinking.
that.
Maybe run around him. But you'd have to sell an inside move or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go Daniel Calhoun just because the speed
Yeah.
advantage would be so different. I mean, I can't bull rush him or anything like that.
I think I could big body comeback Ellis, but he's got such long arms that he's just going to poke under an armpit, ball out,
Yeah.
kind of deal. But I think I could maybe 2-step slant him. Just big body bends.
If
The
I can
right
get a
side
little
dusty.
spin seal rebound move on
Yeah, a
him
little something.
legally.
I will
Just
say
give him a
though,
little sauce.
getting open in one-on-ones is advantageous to the wide receiver.
Practice notes, I got a whole load over for you. We got Rod Robinson at thud speed, an absolute menace. An absolute menace is Rod Robinson. Imagine this 240-pound brick of stone, just a brick mortar human being, and you can't hit him from his waist down. That's what's happening right now at practice for the University of Georgia defensive backs. And I'm going to tell you right now, he caught about 2 bodies during practice availability today, okay? We were there for a grand total of 13 minutes and 36 seconds. Rod Robinson about decapitated 2 humans. Okay, so I tweeted it out after I left. I think Rod's going to make a litany of wow plays. He already has. If you really studied the Florida State tape, the guy was phenomenal in that football game. He's had a great spring. I expect him to continue to do it. But, bro, I'm telling you right now, it's impossible to tackle that human being from the waist up, which is exactly what guys are having to do right now. You're not allowed to hit your own teammates in the legs. Okay, they want you to stay up off the ground, even if you're in full pads. So I'm going to tell you right now, Rod's going to continue to have a great spring because ain't nobody tackling that guy and ain't nobody wrapping him up at 242 pounds. The wide receiver rotation based off today's practice availability is very, very clear to me. Here's the first group. You ready? Dylan Bell at X, Arian Smith at the Z, Dom Lovett at the slot position with Oscar Delp at tight end. The second round of players, you have Tyler Williams rotating with Colby Young at the X position with Ra Thomas at the Z, Anthony Evans with the 2s at the slot with Lawson Lucky right there backing him up. I think Zacoby White gets in the mix, but outside of that, you're kind of too deep with London Humphreys as well. 2 groups, Michael Jackson III trying to find his way in. But when we're out there at media availability early on in routes on airs and stuff like that, they're letting the returners get most of the reps. They're coaching up the new transfers. So we might have seen Tyler Williams on the depth chart look ahead of Colby Young during practice today. But let's be honest, that's not the situation, okay? Colby Young will be a factor at the X spot. He will be backing up Dylan Bell. I would imagine as soon as they went to team, that was probably what was happening. But they showed us Tyler Williams kind of getting those 2s reps with Colby Young rotating in there at the X spot. Again, I don't believe that to be the case. I believe it to be Dylan Bell, Colby Young. That's going to be your X spot this year coming up this fall. I got a really, really good feeling about Josh Jarrett. This is nothing that I saw during practice today, but I know that for him to stay on the field, it is going to be a conditioning thing. Are you able to move like you're supposed to? Because I know you're going to 2-gap well enough to where we want to play you on 1st and 2nd down. But I have a very sneaky suspicion that it's going to be a good year for Josh Jarrett. He has lost a good amount of weight, and he has maintained his cardiovascular endurance that he showed up at bowl practices with after spending, the Christmas break at home working out with his trainer. So he looks to be in much, much better shape. I can't shake this one out of my head. Ja'Cory Thomas's body looks better and better and better and better. The physical development for Ja'Cory has become better and better and better every time I see him, and loved to see him stick his nose in a fan today. Okay, during 2-over-2 kind of tackling drills, unzipped his feet, running back running full head of steam. I think it was Rod, actually. And just helmet to helmet, unzipped, chest to chest. We took a big blow right there. Defensive coaches love to see that. He's mixing in at that star position, probably going to get some playing time. That star position becoming far more heavily contested during this spring practice than we ever thought it was going to be. I've been hyping up Ryan Puglisi. Source has been hyping up Ryan Puglisi. Ryan Puglisi is going to be a really, really good football player, borderline great based off what we've heard so far. He had some freshman moments today. Had some very obvious freshman moments, whether it be over-chooching a little bit, you know what I mean? He got a big one on him. So just letting it eat just a little bit too much today. Missed a couple of wide-open receivers on air, but also just had a pure freshman moment. In routes on air, just threw to the wrong guy. Straight up threw to the wrong guy. And in quintessential Kirby Smart fashion, there's the only thing he was looking at for that one rep, apparently. Whole field working. Kirby snapped his head around and saw Ryan Puglisi being a freshman. Let everybody know on the microphone he was being a freshman. So, yeah, saw some freshman moments from here. I'm going to be honest. I mentioned it in the article. We mentioned it this week. We almost kind of can stop talking about the offensive line. I know we're going to continue to talk about it, but it just kind of seems set. Who they are, what it looks like, what it's going to be, we kind of know it. The tight end room, talked about it earlier in the show, extremely, extremely thin. Very thin with Riddell struggling with a hamstring injury. Right now it's just 3 Scully guys, right? It's Oscar Delp, it's Lawson Lucky, it's Colton Heinrich, and then it's Jaden Riddell as well. It's 4 on the roster, but 3 really 100% available. That's not who this roster is. It's not what this roster is. It's why they brought in Urosek. Thought it was very interesting to hear Kirby Smart say today that he alluded to knowing.
Yeah.
You notice that he alluded to knowing about Pierce Sperling, and that's why they brought in Urosek. I thought that was
too.
very intriguing. Kind of letting his hand there.
Well, when Urosek was linked to Georgia, it was like, what?
Why?
Like, that's a little interesting, so it makes sense now.
So there's that. Didn't see much of the edge group today. But I'll be honest with you. I think it's going to be a rotation. It's a heavy rotation of guys. And I think it's going to be 2 types of rotations, right? You're going to have obvious rundowns or potential rundown rotations at the outside linebacker position, which I think is going to look a lot like Michael and Chaz on the field at the same time, playing both edge positions, okay? I think that's what it's going to look like on obvious rundowns. Maybe, Michael at the jack and then TID at the defensive end. Maybe that's your first down group, right? Chaz playing a lot on first downs. And then when we get into obvious passing downs, I think you're going to see a lot more of a rotation of guys like Damon Wilson, guys like Sam Mpimba playing alongside Michael, maybe Gabe Harris, TID. Bottom line, you have a real deep pass rushing skill set at the University of Georgia this year. I feel strongly about your ability to get after the quarterback. I also feel strongly that I haven't seen physical specimens at the linebacker position like what 16, 18, and 19 look like right now at Georgia, just to a man. You look across the field, you see Justin Williams, Chris Cole, and our guy Chris Jones. Okay, you see those 3 individuals, and the first thing you say is, holy shit. Look at those guys. They are massive, massive individuals. And I'm going to be honest, as we wrap up the show notes, or the practice notes, Kirby Smart seemed a little calm today.
He did.
Seemed a little calm on the microphone until we left, and then he was back to his usual beings.
He knows when to put it on and put it off.
Got through those pretty quick, didn't I?
Yeah,
He did with
Pretty
4
impressive.
minutes.
You
4
like
minutes
that?
to spare.
That's not bad. What do we think?
I'm still intrigued about the Jaylen Walker stuff. I think I like hearing that, knowing that that's something that they're working towards, and also just knowing the self-awareness of like this is something that we have to work towards, and knowing like take it like that. I feel like that's something that can get like kind of falling behind the scene a little bit in spring practice, a little bit of things like that happening. So I always love hearing stuff like that.
I think it's interesting they're talking about just how the receiver rotation is going right now. Just because you've got so many guys in that position group that are new to the program, and then others that are just new to college football as a whole. So it is interesting to see how they're rotating and kind of giving reps of who needs this rep now versus others.
The good stuff about Rob too. That train just keeps on pushing forward.
It is impressive to see, and the crazy thing is we see it in our mentions about how he needs to get faster. What tape have y'all watched to make you think this dude is slow? You see a 240-pounder and you just assume because he's muscle-bound that he's slow. I don't know where you pick up your reporting, but if you've been on patreon.com/Brooks Austin, you would already know that this individual is 6 foot, 6'1", 242 pounds. He's less than 8% body fat.
That's insane.
Okay, so there's no weight to really lose. We got to lose some muscle mass, which is something we don't want. And oh, by the way, they're a big GPS metric football program. They know who is fast. They know who is slow. They have the metrics. This dude has some of the highest, if not the highest, speed metrics in the damn room. He can run. He can run, and he's a bitch to tackle. So, yeah, stop with y'all stereotyping big fellas. I don't like y'all doing that. This is not Jerome Bettis. Okay, it's a guy that can roll. The bus. Classic. All right, that's it for us. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll see you tomorrow.